presented in Tiv language. In the cultural landscape of the Tiv people of Nigeria, the concept of witchcraft holds a deeply rooted and complex significance. However, it has been consistently misrepresented, particularly when viewed through a Western lens that frames witchcraft as inherently evil. This misrepresentation has distorted not only the understanding of the term witchcraft in the Tiv language, but also related spiritual concepts such as Saa and Akôôr, which are integral to the Tiv worldview. These misrepresentations have led to the demonization of spiritual practices and figures that are traditionally seen as vital to maintaining societal balance and harmony. A closer look reveals a complex system that is not too dissimilar from spiritual principles found in the Holy Bible. In both the Tiv worldview and biblical teachings, there are nuanced understandings of spiritual authority, ritual practices, and the use of supernatural powers, which are often distorted when reduced to simplistic notions of good versus evil. Let's explore the dual role of Saa and Akôôr in Tiv spirituality. In the Tiv language, the term often associated with witchcraft is Saa. However, Saa is much more than a simple connotation of evil magic. It is, in fact, a spiritual force or authority possessed by individuals who are deeply connected to the metaphysical realm. These individuals, known as Mbatsav plural or Otsav singular, serve as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds. Traditionally, they held great responsibility in ensuring the spiritual and social equilibrium in the community. Alongside Saa, there is another key concept in Tiv spirituality, Akôôr. Akôôr refers to sacred objects or rituals that invoke spiritual forces to address specific societal issues such as disease, crop failure, or conflict. These rituals are carried out by spiritual leaders who have the knowledge of these mystical practices. The Akôôr system is deeply tied to the well-being of the community, and its practitioners play a vital role in protecting the people from misfortune or harm. For example, before colonialism and Christianity, Tiv girls used to wear snail shells as a sign of their virginity. Girls remained virgins until they got married to their husbands. The wearing of snails, known as Saa Akôôr, was a type of Akôôr to help with morality. A girl would only lose her virginity after some kind of ritual to give her away in marriage. If she got this virgin before marriage, both the man that slept with her and she would have a bad fate before them. If she was not a virgin at the point of marriage, her new husband would buy a brand new abeda or wrapper and make a hole in the middle of it and send the wrapper to her mother as a way of registering his protest. This was a dishonor to the bride's family. Together, Saa and Akôôr form the bedrock of Tiv spirituality. Saa is the personal spiritual power that allows individuals to engage with the supernatural, while Akôôr are the tools and rituals used to channel that power for specific purposes. Both were seen as essential in the Tiv people's efforts to maintain cosmic balance, manage communal crises, and interact with forces beyond the physical world. However, the introduction of foreign perspectives on witchcraft drastically changed how these practices were viewed. Let's now explore the biblical parallels to Saa and Akôôr. A closer examination of the Holy Bible reveals spiritual practices and parallels to Saa and Akôôr. Consider the story of King David, who, like the Mbatsav, was anointed by God and endowed with spiritual authority. David used his spiritual gifts to lead his people, protect them from enemies, and seek divine intervention in times of crisis. Much like Saa, David's authority came from a higher spiritual source, and his role was both one of leadership and mediation between the people and God. In the Bible, prophets like Elijah and Elisha also performed miraculous acts using spiritual authority granted by God. For instance, Elisha healed Naaman of leprosy by instructing him to bathe in the Jordan 7 times. 2 Kings 5. Similarly, Akôôr involves rituals and objects used in bringing healing and protection, reflecting the belief that spiritual intervention can address physical and societal problems. The anointing of the sick with oil in James 5 verses 14 and 15 is another example of how physical objects and rituals are used to channel divine power for healing, similar to Akôôr practices in Tiv culture. Current-day Christianity, with emphasis on healing and wealth, have embodied these practices too. So it is shocking but not surprising that the practice in Tivland has acquired a negative connotation. How did this misrepresentation happen? The misrepresentation of Saa and Akôôr can be traced back to the arrival of colonial powers and Christian missionaries, who imposed their own worldview on the Tiv people. To these outsiders, anything outside the framework of Christianity was seen as witchcraft in the negative sense of the word, equating it with sorcery and evil practices forbidden in the Bible, such as the necromancy described in Deuteronomy 18 verses 10 to 12. As a result, Saa and Akôôr, which had once been respected as spiritual practices aimed at maintaining the welfare of the community, were recast as forms of dangerous witchcraft that needed to be eradicated. The colonizers interpreted these spiritual practices through a Western lens that equated witchcraft with malevolent magic and superstition, rather than understanding their true significance within Tiv culture. However, the biblical condemnation of sorcery refers specifically to practices that defy God's will or seek to manipulate spiritual powers for selfish gain. The role of Mbatsav and the use of Akôôr in Tiv society were not about defying God, but about maintaining harmony and seeking protection from harm, much like the intercession of priests and prophets in the Bible. The colonial narrative failed to recognize this distinction, leading to a harmful mischaracterization that persists to this day. The selfish manipulation of spiritual powers is also evident in modern-day Christianity. The Tiv people, who once revered Saa and Akôôr as instruments of communal well-being, began to view them with suspicion. The term Saa in particular became associated with harmful witchcraft rather than spiritual leadership, and Akôôr rituals were increasingly seen as pagan practices that should be abandoned in favor of Christianity. This shift in perception, driven by colonial authorities and missionaries, drastically altered the role of Mbatsav and those who practiced Akôôr. This distortion has had long-standing consequences. The Mbatsav, who were once entrusted with the spiritual care of the community, are now often accused of using their powers for evil. Similarly, the use of Akôôr rituals, which were once a source of protection and healing, has been stigmatized as dangerous sorcery. These changes reflect the broader impact of colonialism on indigenous African spiritual systems, which were frequently demonized and marginalized. In modern Tivland, the shift has led to widespread fear and superstition surrounding individuals who possess, serve, or engage in Akôôr rituals. As a result, accusations of witchcraft, particularly against vulnerable groups such as the elderly, women, and children, have become more common. These accusations often lead to ostracism, violence, and persecution. What was once a system of spiritual balance and protection has been twisted into something that generates fear and division among the community. To reclaim Tsav and Akôôr for Tiv culture is important. To correct the misrepresentation of witchcraft in the Tiv language, it is essential to return to the traditional understanding of Tsav and Akôôr. This concept must be reclaimed as important aspects of Tiv spirituality, not as malevolent forces, but as sources of wisdom, healing, and protection. The Mbatsav should be recognized not as witches to be feared, but as spiritual custodians with deep connection to the supernatural. Similarly, Akôôr rituals should be seen as powerful tools that have historically helped the Tiv people navigate crisis and maintain the harmony of their society. Rather than being viewed as dangerous or evil, these practices should be respected for their cultural and spiritual significance. In the same vein, those who possess the powers ought to use them for collective protection, such as against the rampaging banditry in Tivland, so that they can be trusted as altruistic. It is also important to challenge the colonial and Western narratives that have contributed to the stigmatization of Tsav and Akôôr. These foreign interpretations have imposed a binary understanding of good and evil that does not fully capture the complexity of Tiv and African spirituality. In traditional Tiv thought, Tsav and Akôôr are not inherently good or bad. Their moral value depends on how they are used. When employed for the benefit of the community, they are forces of protection and healing. When misused, they can become dangerous, but this is true of any spiritual power in any culture. Just as the Bible teaches that spiritual gifts can be used for good and evil depending on the intentions of the person wielding them, Tsav and Akôôr can be understood as neutral spiritual tools that depend on the morality and wisdom of the user. They can be seen like a knife, which can be used to prepare food, to sustain life, or to stab a person and kill. The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 12 speaks of various spiritual gifts such as prophecy, healing, and miracles. These gifts, much like Tsav, are not inherently good or bad. They are to be used for the benefit of others under God's guidance. In this sense, the Mbatsav who possesses Tsav are not unlike the prophets and spiritual leaders in the Bible who have been endowed with divine authority. Their power must be used responsibly for the good of the community, much like the Bible's teachings on stewardship and leadership. When the Mbatsav use their gifts for protection, healing, and maintaining order, they are following a path not unlike the biblical figures who sought to use their spiritual authority for the greater good. Similarly, Akôôr rituals can be seen in the light of the Bible's many examples of spiritual practices that invoke God's power for protection and healing. The Passover ritual in Exodus 12, where the Israelites marked their doors with lamb's blood to protect their homes from the angel of death, bears similarity to Akôôr as a means of warding off evil, and ensuring divine protection. In both cases, these rituals are not acts of sorcery, but acts of faith, an acknowledgement of the spiritual forces at play in the world and the need for divine intervention to secure the safety and well-being of the community. By drawing these parallels in Akweya TV, we have better been able to understand that the true danger lies not in the possession of spiritual authority, but in its misuse. Just as the Bible calls for discernment and responsibility in the use of spiritual gifts, so too should Tiv society reclaim Saa and Akôôr as forces for good, not as misrepresented forms of witchcraft. Tune in to Akweya TV and visit our website www.akweyatv.com or visit our YouTube channel youtube.com/Akweya TV. Akweya is spelled Akweya.